to celebrating our food and telling stories of it. I am Sophie, your host and producer, and this is Our Food Stories, a podcast for us and by us. Episode 27. I can never stop talking about how this podcast would not exist if it were not for each and every storyteller who has generously shared a part of their life with us. 3 seasons and almost 30 stories later, and we're still talking about the food and the people that make up this country. Today's story is a replay of episode 12 with Faith Mulungi. Before we get into the story, I would like to talk about the reason for the replay and our storyteller, Faith. Faith is battling stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis. She is currently in need of a second corrective surgery to stop further spread. In order to meet the cost of the procedure, she needs $25,000. To make her life much easier, and in order for her to reach her goal, every donation that you can contribute will count. I will leave a link to the GoFundMe page, Eversend, bank details, and the phone numbers that you can contact in the episode notes. Take some time to donate and then come back and listen to the story. Your contribution matters.
My name is Faith Mulungi, and I hail from Bugweri district, formerly Iganga, from a village called Buyanga. And I'm really excited to be sharing with you a delicacy from my people that to date is one of my favorite foods. Now, growing up, I come from a very big and multi-tribal home. My parents always made sure that for the holidays, which were close to 3 months long back in the day, especially third term, we would always go to different villages. 1, to connect with our roots. 2, to learn the language. But 3, to experience life outside what we had known in the city. And here is why Omugoyo is very, very special. It was, or it still is, a custom for Kampala dwellers or city dwellers when going to the village to carry some necessities for the people that are going to host them. And this included bread and all these other things. However, because of how long the holidays were, my grandmother got creative. So because we didn't want to finish all of them at once, she would find ways of supplementing. And Omugoyo was a very, very good substitute when it came to healthy snacks. Now, before I lose you, Omugoyo is simply a combination of mashed sweet potatoes and a very special kind of beans called mpande. Mpande is referred to as the Bambara groundnut, but it's also referred to as a form of peas. It's usually reddish. It can also be brownish, but the one I remember was what you would call burgundy. Now, in case you go into the market, they definitely will know. They will tell you and they would guide you, especially the big markets around Kampala. Now, I also learned that due to superstitions around Mpande, they were linked to witchcraft. Majority of the people in my home in Busoga stopped growing Mpande. They just stopped growing it. And so it's one of those delicacies that is risking running into extinction. Now, over time, Mpande has become very, very expensive and also not easy to get. So people nowadays substitute that with beans. So you basically mash your sweet potatoes together with the mpande. Now, the difference that mpande makes is, unlike beans that are easily mashed together with the sweet potatoes, mpande rarely get that ready. So they still maintain a feeling of roughness, or they don't get as soft when mashed. So you have a very unique texture between your sweet potatoes and the mpande that feels a bit crunchy. Yum. I'm getting hungry, but let's continue. So Omugoyo was usually served either as a breakfast accompaniment, like we love to call it in Uganda, or as a snack during evening tea. So Omugoyo was taken either as a breakfast snack or during evening tea. And sometimes, depending on how grandmother wanted to go about it, sometimes it would actually be a reward for Kampala dwellers, the children, how they would have helped with the digging and the chores. And so the one that has probably done well, as a form of appreciation, you would get yourself some mugoyo. Omugoyo is usually, because mpande do not get ready like beans, usually they are boiled overnight. And so that sort of gives it time so that it doesn't get overly soft, but also so that it is ready for the mixture. And usually to preserve it, especially for those that preferred it a bit warmed, my grandmother would always wrap it in banana leaves. Now, she would also decide whether to keep it warm, what they would call okusubika, if I remember correctly. And this basically is keeping the food, you could also call it okubobeza, actually, keeping the food warm enough for you to be able to consume it, but not too hot, okay, just to make sure the food is still fresh. But for those that preferred omugoyo in a room temperature setting, if I may borrow the term, those would definitely wait up until the morning when it has that leftover feel. Now, being wrapped in banana leaves sort of puts everything together, the aroma, the texture, everything all together, and then it is later on served. This is a meal that I definitely would love to pass on to my children when I have them, because for me it's a meal made out of love. It looks very simple, it looks very usual, but that combination for me reminds me of my roots, of my people, and the simplicity yet diverse tastes when it comes to food. So if you know a plug that sells mpande, please point them my way, because I have some childhood memories to recreate. I host conversations every Thursday on my Instagram, that is at Imani Mulungi, and they are dubbed The Catch Up with Mulungi, where I host young people that are doing amazing things, but also for the love of conversation. Why not? I also run an initiative online that is called the Amani Foundation, and this primarily is an organization that is geared towards helping rape victims find real-time help. And I do this in conjunction and in collaboration with already established organizations, and to make sure that rape victims are not further traumatized nor victimized. And I would encourage you, in case this is something you'd like to partner with me on, because I soon will need a physical place to give shelter to these different women and girls that I work with, but also to equip them, especially for those that are not well educated, that might be victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. The dream is to have a center to equip them with knowledge as part of their rehabilitation, so that they can go back into society and do something better with themselves, with the skills that they've learned. So do hit me up. I would definitely love to hear from you at faithmulungi@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to this great story of Omugoyo and for supporting Faith in reaching her fundraising goal. The links to the GoFundMe page, bank details, and phone numbers are in the episode's notes. Also, it would be lovely to share this episode with anyone that you think might be of help. Remember, If you have a delicious food story that is very dear to your heart and you would like to share it on this podcast, you can reach out to me via email at akitcheninuganda@gmail.com or on Instagram at akitcheninuganda. Don't forget to share the podcast with other listeners, to leave a review or a rating, and to comment on your favorite stories wherever you listen. See you in the next episode.